So good morning, everybody. My name's Justin Flitter. I'm the chair of the New Zealand Tech Marketers Group. It's really cool to see a whole bunch of you joining us today. I'm quite excited to run through this brand webinar and discussion. Hamish and I and Gemma have been working on this for the last few weeks. So it's really cool, really fantastic to see you here. Hamish, Gemma, you guys ready to go?
Yeah, already.
My other hat is I'm the founder of New Zealand.ai, and I talk about artificial intelligence and how it's impacting the world. In fact, with Tech Marketers Group, we're going to be running an AI, a series of AI workshops and webinars and things like that coming up. Generally, in the world of AI, we're seeing execution being automated, whereby the content that we're producing, we're able to get hyper personalization at scale. We can produce digital content at scale. Everything's becoming faster and more commoditized. We're also seeing message clarity getting degraded as people try to become more things to everybody. And that's quite a common trait. And so what holds us together as a business when technology is accessible to everybody, and we've got all of this capability to get our message out to more people than ever before. We still have to anchor our business around helping people make that critical decision. How do I know that you're the right business for us, and the right product for us? AI has really changed how we're running and executing campaigns. We've got all this automation. As we know, there's I've got someone I need to mute here. It's bugging me. Here we go. All right. So while AI is really, really good at analyzing a whole lot of data and predicting consumer behavior, it falls short of one thing that we're really, really good at, and that is understanding human emotions and values and aspirations. We understand and we can deal in empathy as a currency. And we all know as our founders decided to start a business because they saw an opportunity in the market to solve a particular problem. Often founders will grow that first phase of the business off features and functionality, and that carries you only so far. You start hitting roadblocks where competitors will start coming on, where you're on par with other products in the market, and all of a sudden your lead gen campaign and your demand gen is starting to get more and more costly, and you have to start rethinking what you're doing. And the rethinking part is probably resetting back to your why. And that was really something that anchored me in this presentation and this webinar and this story with Hamish, was how do we make sure that we're building a brand that's anchored on a why that builds a moat. It's an emotional connection that holds our customers, our partners, our community together around why we do what we do. So I'd like to introduce you to Hamish Ewart, who's been a Beachhead Advisor with NZTE. Hi, Shannon. Nice to see you. And previously CMO of Supacolour. And Supacolour do the little, you can, Hamish can tell us about Supacolour. And so I'm going to let you run the show from here.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, guys. Hi, everybody. So I love what Justin said there, because you think with the introduction of generative AI, like marketing's become faster and seemingly easier, but easy in the execution, right? So what Justin was saying before is a lot of companies, and I found this at NZTE, we were guilty of it when we started at Supacolour. So Supacolour, for those of you who don't know, we made heat transfers, right? When I started there, our marketing was about, we created the world's best heat transfer. which is kind of like what most companies would say. You know, if you're a tech company, we would lead with product. We would lead with all our marketing would be about iterations, the best, we do it like this, right? But what happened was, like Justin was saying, we started to fall short with our marketing. So see on the screen there's a slide, and this is a really great quote from not everybody's favorite person right now, but it's still a really interesting quote. He said, "Your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room." Now, the reason I love this quote is because it makes you realize something. And it took me a while to wrap my head around it, but this rings true to what we're trying to say here. Your brand actually belongs to your customer. So people interpret your brand, right? I know it's kind of hard to understand, but think about this, right? You love a brand and then you go and talk to somebody about it. What you say is the brand messaging that they put out there. So Justin, can you just jump onto the next slide and I'll give you an example of why this matters. So see this here, right? Imagine this is a trade show or it's a metaphor for the internet. So you have 8 different financial reporting companies that are communicating with you. Have a look at this messaging. Which one of these stands out to you? I mean, they all basically say the same. And this is arguably how companies in this sector are doing their marketing.
It's like they've all jumped on ChatGPT and asked for a pitch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So if you're doing this, right, taking into consideration that the brand is in the minds of the customers and the conversations where they are having with other colleagues, it's going to fall short. Like it's very, 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 very short-lived, right? It's just kind of fundamental to brand strategy is to think like this. And look, we're all guilty of it. I mean, like I said, when we were at Supacolour, that's what we were doing. And we were a pretty young brand with some huge, big competitors. We were all doing this and everyone was in almost like a product war, like a war zone. So in order to do things differently, I want you guys to have a think about this, right? We're all in the tech business. But what you're actually in is the people persuasion business. Now, I know that kind of sounds a little bit like marketing speak. What do you mean the people persuasion business? But think about it, you are, because business is about people, right? It's about persuading people to come on a journey with you, to try you, to give you a go. It's about taking some form of action, right? That could even be signing up for a newsletter, signing up for a webinar, signing up for a demo, and then maybe even then booking an appointment with a sales representative. All of that comes from persuasion. So if you're just talking about your customer, maybe you could get lucky at like someone's right now thinking, oh my God, I have to buy, our system is broken. I need to buy this right now. That doesn't really happen, right? Got to be top of mind. How are we going to do this? We need to be able to persuade them to trust us in the first place, right? So here's a good way of thinking about it. So think about it like this, right? You are in a heated conversation with somebody. Imagine it's like your partner, right? There are 2 sides to persuasion. There is logic, right? So logic, think about that. Logic is like your product. So that's your product benefits, your product features, iterations, because that comes from the head, right? But if we want to persuade somebody, we got to go just a little bit further, and that's with the heart. So the heart is from an emotion trigger. So what that means is if you want to persuade somebody, product, great, but then there has to be the emotion that backs it up. So if we can go to the next slide, this is my all-time favorite thing about branding. And it took me a little bit of time to get to it. And I'm really happy to share it with you guys because this is when the penny dropped for me as a brand strategist, when I made this realization. When you communicate your brand, think about it like a communication system. It's what you do, product. Because even though I was saying before, everyone talks about a product, you absolutely have to. I mean, what are your sales team going to say to you? What, I'm going to be selling on emotion? No. You can still talk about your product, but you also need to talk about what you stand for. Think about this. If you're going to take a screenshot of any of these slides, this is the one to take the screenshot of it, because this is gold mine of information. Think about, like, from your website. Your website, on your homepage, you can talk about what you do. But then as you go through those sites, you can integrate what you stand for. Obvious place on your About Us page. Maybe it's in your content strategy. Maybe it's just wherever it is, you can integrate what you do with what you stand for, because it's head and heart. Maybe thinking to yourselves, okay, this is all good and fine, but how do I do this? First thing you got to do is you got to dig deep into your target market. You may have probably had someone from NZTE or someone in your marketing department has done buyer personas. A lot of the time, and buyer personas are my thing. I don't know anyone who's out there who knows me. Buyer personas really is something that I like to do. You can't just have a buyer persona who identifies the person or the target market. Because what you got to do is you got to dig really, really, really deep. A way to think about this is if you just identify it. So Justin, who could be a good example for someone for a financial reporting software company? Like, it's just an identifying buyer persona.
I'm going to be an accountant for a mid-sized firm in Oklahoma.
Right. So exactly that. So imagine it's an accountant for a mid-sized firm. So I'm sitting here as the marketer. So what I'm doing is I'm making a whole lot of assumptions. And what I'm doing is I'm just thinking, this is my assumption about them using my product. Okay. That would work if we're just talking about what we do, right? But if you take the time to really do a deep dive into your target market, you can start to understand their world. And then once you start to understand their world, you can now, instead of just interpreting how you think the product fits into their world, you can actually understand how your product is going to make a change to their world, is going to help them for some particular reason. And what that does, yeah. Sorry, Justin.
You're talking about building, understanding your ideal customer profile, right? So what are the characteristics that make up an ideal customer profile? It's not just the role of the buyer or the role of the user. It's what other technology do they use in their business? Who are their customers? What are the problems that they're trying to solve as well? And so there's a whole multitude of characteristics and dynamics that you want to build into that profile to really understand who the people are that you're talking to. It's not we've got to, we're moving out of transactional here. We're trying not to be transactional. We're trying to be emotive and that present, in that messaging, and finding that stickiness, right? And so being able to build out a target account list to start marketing to, you've got to be able to have that refinement to it.
Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it, because I know Hannah Darbo from NZTE, she's a trade commissioner in New York. She coined this amazing phrase, which always stuck with me, is find a niche, but then find a niche within your niche, right? Because that niche, they go from being your target customer to an ideal customer, because it's going to be thinking, if I'm going to be throwing a whole lot of money at this market, this is the mindset of the person who's going to be responsive to the way that we want to talk in the marketplace, right? So once you've sort of got these key characteristics together, and like Justin said, you've got an idea about the problems that these people are looking for you to solve, what's going on in their world, it's time then to just step back for a second and ask yourself, why do we do what we do? And a really important thing to point out is it's not just to make a profit, because that's a result of everything that we're doing here. The thing with brand strategy is that it connects you with the thing that you love the most about your business, the thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. So when we were at Supacolour, like our customers, most of our customers were screen printers in the garment decoration business, because we did heat transfer. That'd be like transferring this onto this shirt instead of having to have it embroidered. So we would always go, we would start every meeting. Ron Walio, who is the president of Supacolour, would sit there and he would always start every meeting by saying to the screen printers, you are in the garment decoration business. Who are your customers? They'd say who they are. And we would say, well, what business are you really in? And you'd just see their heads would just go, oh my goodness, you know, okay, yeah, sure. Everybody's a screen printer, just like everyone can create a tech product, but the business that we're in, it transcends. It takes you to another place. You know, people would be like, oh, we started this business because we wanted our customers to be able to solve problems for their customers. Like, we never wanted to turn down any job, so we're the ultimate people pleasing. You know what I mean? It takes it to this place, and it takes you back to why did we start the company? Justin, can you go to the next slide? Like, why did we start the company in the first place? Because what why is, now I'm going to throw something that could sound a little bit heavy here. Your why is your purpose, right? Your why sums up the reason that you started your company. Like, this is the purpose. I mean, again, I'm going to give you another Supacolour reference here. Once we came up with our why and our tagline, which is we help you make it, because we were all about helping our customers grow their business, it informs so many decisions within the company. I mean, yes, marketing, yes, sales approach. It also informed how we did our product development, how we would structure new products coming into our product mix. Everybody got behind our why because it was our purpose. It was like this big rallying cry for everybody.
It anchors everyone, right? It anchors everyone around a core idea, right? Everything that every decision you make, every opportunity to do marketing or do an event or do something is like, is this going to help drive our purpose?
Yeah, absolutely. And think about it, like, you know, customers, partners, investors, before when we were talking about persuasion, right? How are we persuading all these people to trust you to go on this journey with you? Well, if you have this rallying cry behind you, everyone's like, right, I'm part of something. And that was something that for Supacolour we love so much. It just felt like we were in this movement of change. So that's really exciting. So, you know, before when I talked about customers, what are they saying about you if you're not in the room? If you have this amazing, powerful why, that's what they're going to talk about. That's what they're going to interpret. And that's what they're going to start to communicate with their colleagues. But here, Justin, come into the, okay. What it will do for you in your marketing is it creates a point of view, right? Your purpose is this really big statement. It's something like we said before. It's kind of like your Northern Star, drives your company, drives company decisions. For marketing, everyone needs to differentiate. Remember that slide where it had all those speech bubbles and everyone talking the same, right? I said that brand as a system communicates what you do and what you stand for. The combination of these elements creates a beautiful point of view, which is uniquely yours. It goes beyond just selling because that point of view also aligns with your customer, because you've already done that customer research and you've identified how you fit in their world. You've identified how it works so beautifully with your company. So you have something which is inspirational, that can be educational, and it has true authenticity. So having a point of view is such an amazing thing, because think about it, if we're thinking about AI, generating ideas in AI, and if you're an engineer prompt, before when we were just putting in product features, bit of you could run into a little bit of commoditization, a little bit of sea of sameness. But if you're putting in ideas based on a very distinct point of view, it's just going to keep going and going and going and going. So what I did is I just stopped. Yeah, sorry, Justin.
So a couple of days ago, I posted on the TMG LinkedIn page where there was a comparison of some different SaaS companies and how their message has degraded over time. And I messaged it at the top, and I'm going to message it again, because so often as companies get bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're adding more features and functionality, trying to keep relevant to a bigger audience and build their revenue growth, they go from a really specific purpose and what they do, and it just gets washed, it becomes ever more generic. And so it's really important that we're holding on to these really key emotional key words, right? We believe, working is broken. We empower companies, right? Those are really important, and I think it's so if you missed it, go back to the LinkedIn and see just how some of those companies, the messages are starting to degrading. It's important to have this anchor, and it should be timeless.
Yeah, timeless. That's a great word. That's a fantastic word. So like Dropbox, I mean, Justin just read a bit of it, but think about it. Like what we do, cloud storage service. Why? What's our why? Because we believe the current way of working is broken. Just like Justin said, we want to empower companies to work better to increase productivity. Ideas, ideas, ideas. This just spurts ideas. Another company that we worked with, if we were thinking about that financial reporting software, is Spotlight Reporting. I worked with these guys when I was at NZTE. What? Cloud-based financial data reporting software. Great. But why? Because we empower accounting practices to transform from service provider to trusted advisor. So if you are a company that's in this space that is thinking, okay, we want to evolve, I'm going to be thinking, this is my value, this is what I'm thinking I want to do. Spotlight Reporting, everyone can get around it because there's this mutual want to grow a business. So there, I just wanted to throw those in as two really interesting ways to just sum up what I talked about.
And
yeah,
AI is not going to help you create anything new unless you're starting to generate, to really work through some of those prompts. So, it's important if you're using generative AI like ChatGPT to try and come up with some of this messaging, it's a starting point. It's going to give you some ideas that you're going to build on. It might give you some inspiration, but it's probably not going to give you the end result. So we've gone from AI is commoditizing a lot of our work. It's automating execution, but then no one who graduated marketing ever planned to be designing Instagram ads and TikTok videos all the time, right? So we're probably quite happy about that. We all came out of university as marketers wanting to be creative, wanting to actually help work with businesses and founders to help them scale and grow, right? That was kind of that's our key objective there. And so now finally AI can actually take some of that heavy lifting from the production side off our hands and free us up to actually think more around why are we doing this, and actually use the skills as humans that machines can't do, right? So
yeah,
you, Hamish.
Yeah. So I think what would be good now is, I've been rabbiting on about what it is and why it's important. Let's grab Gemma and let's have a chat about how it worked for them.
Yeah, thanks, Hamish. Hello, everybody. I am Gemma. I'm the CEO of PageProof. So we're actually a tech company based here in Auckland. We also have a team in Portugal. And I'm assuming everybody is in tech, and I'm assuming a lot of people on this call is actually maybe on the marketing side of tech, so which is great, because I have a little bit of a story to tell you guys about some of the work that we actually did with Hamish a couple of years ago, and how that's actually impacted our business. And probably a few of you might go, well, what is PageProof? So I'll just start there very briefly. So we make the review and approval of creative work, no matter what that file type is, feel effortless. So if you are in a marketing team, if you work in a creative agency, like many people do, and you are putting together your brand and marketing collateral, whether that's for campaigns or for telling your brand stories. So whatever that format is, if it's a television commercial, if it's a podcast, if it's packaging, if it's your website or emails, you'll be using PageProof to gather feedback and approvals easily. And it'll actually be a welcome part of your day rather than kind of this frustrating chaos that you can experience if you don't use an online proofing tool. So that in a nutshell is what we do. And Marcus, my co-founder, and I, we created PageProof, or started thinking about PageProof a little bit over 9 years ago. So as you do, as part of a tech startup, you take a look at the competitive landscape. I think we've all done this. We've done our sort of SWOT analysis. We've looked at strengths and weaknesses, and you're kind of thinking, here's my product, and I really want it to carve out a little bit of a niche in the competitive landscape. So you are quite heavily focused on what is missing out there in the product offering from others in the market, and how will this perhaps resonate with some of our customers, the targets of the people that we want to grab, and the eyes that we want to actually bring to our website. So we're also told, and I'm sure many of you will have heard this, go get product market fit. It's super important to get product market fit right from the get-go. So you end up, when you first launch, you've got this incredibly innovative product because you've been thinking about it, dreaming about it. You really want to solve your customers' problems in a really unique way. And often innovation comes hand in hand with like the product and the features and how people are going to actually use that product. So we ended up launching big wow in the marketplace, and everyone was like, wow, there's this new tool, let's have a look at this, and what is it actually going to do for me? And at the same time, and don't kid yourself, competitors are all over your website. They're all looking at it, they're all looking at your videos and your help articles, and they're kind of going through and looking at, why is this product suddenly quite popular? What is it that they're doing that we're not? So you end up inherently in a little bit of you release a new piece of innovation, and it's quickly kind of shadowed by your competitors sort of catching up and trying to copy it. And sooner or later, they'll release something a little bit similar. It hasn't quite got the same, page proofness around it, but it is similar, and it sort of ticks a box when someone is comparing products. So after a few years of this, I personally was getting a little bit sick of it, this whole competitive kind of race when it came to features. And I think if you are in marketing, or if you are a founder and you are creating product, it is flattery on one hand, and at the same time it really annoys you when someone sort of comes up and releases a feature that you released 6 months prior. So I actually, I keep in really good contact with our New York office for NZTE, and also LA, et cetera, et cetera. And I kind of mentioned to them, hey, we were getting this a little bit frustrated with this. And they actually introduced me to Hamish, and which was just a fantastic introduction, because I think at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, Hamish, but it was around about early 2020. So we're just talking about the pandemic had just started. And again, Hamish and I spent a lot of time on Zooms, as we did during the pandemic. But it was a great time because the market was actually evolving. So if you are in marketing and you realize, this pandemic was suddenly creating this separation between people in the workplace, collaboration was now this kind of hot topic. You know, a lot of people were talking about how do we get things working with remote teams. You know, that was, I'm sure you guys would have seen all the social media and, you know, articles and things around that. So what we kind of did was, first things first, and Hamish did touch on this before, is customer personas. And because I've come from working with creative agencies, working in marketing for many, many years, and so had my co-founder, we had actually developed our customer personas right from the beginning. Before we even wrote a line of code, we had decided what our brand was going to look like. We decided who our customers were. And with personas, of course, you don't just have one persona, you've got several. And at the time, I think we had 5 when we first launched, 5 personas. And wow. Interestingly enough, we were all, I have a shocking memory at the best of times. So we were watching the series Suits, and this is kind of like a funny story because, I mean, everyone would know like Meghan Markle was on Suits. So all of our personas actually had the names of one of the Suits characters because it's the only way I was actually going to remember all these different personas. So, and one of them was like Harvey, and Harvey was the in advertising, he was the suit that worked at the creative agency, and how were we going to get PageProof in front of Harvey, you know? And we went right through all these different characters. We had 5, but they were quite no, I'm not going to say simplistic. We had put a lot of effort into these, but it really was a time now that the market was changing and we had less of a gap between us and our competitors. It was a time that we needed to actually really seriously relook at these personas and really analyze these drivers of our customers. And actually, I don't know if Hamish remembers this or not, but it was absolutely fantastic because we brought an outsider into our business. And sometimes as founders, that's quite an important thing to do because your company is your baby. You have created this thing. You are so close to it that you almost don't have your side vision going on about and you're not really that honest about your business sometimes because you're just all in this positive mindset and you really having that beautiful thing, which is an outsider coming in to actually kind of really ask those hard questions and really sort of take a different perspective was absolutely gold. And when Hamish came in, he actually said, do you know what? I'd really love to speak to your customers. And I was like, oh no, I don't want to give Hamish my customers' details and things. But actually it was fantastic because you've got an outsider point of view, suddenly scheduling some time with some of your customers that, and especially being software as a service, some of the customers you know really well and others you don't know. Like you've got no idea who they are. You've never stepped foot in their office because they might be in another side of the world. But Hamish was able to kind of deep dive into these interviews with them and actually start extracting real gems of emotive stories behind why was it that they sought out our product? What do they absolutely love? What is their pain points that PageProof is actually solving for them? So if anything, I can really, really recommend one thing if you kind of take away from this webinar is actually looking at going back to some of your customers and actually re-interviewing them if you've never done an interview with them before. And getting an outsider is sometimes actually really, really key to that because you might just sort of be leading the questions to get certain answers out of them. So definitely a worthwhile tip there. But so what we ended up doing is we started looking at all these customers and the customer profiles, and we boiled it down to that we had 2 very distinct customer segments. And we ended up naming them flounderers and solution seekers. And a flounderer was someone who was working in, say, marketing or creative agency, and they were doing what they'd always done, which is attach files to emails, or they'd done printouts and they were receiving scribbles of feedback and things. And it's not a nice mechanism to gather feedback, but they truly didn't realize there was a solution out there that might have met their needs. So they weren't actively searching for a solution, but they were aware they had a pain, but they weren't actively going out and trying to find something. And then our second customer segment, we talked about them being solution seekers. So they had maybe somewhat of a system, a slight system, They might have been using Adobe Acrobat, for example, to gather feedback, but that kind of only works just for PDFs. So maybe for video, they were doing something else. And for podcasts, they might have just been popping something into Dropbox. So they had some solutions. Some of them were using online proofing systems prior to ours, but we really wanted to look at why they were frustrated with their solution and why they were ending up doing a bit of a search on Google to try and find an alternative. So those were those two kind of customer segments, if you like, flounders and solution seekers. And then if we, and I'm sure you remember back at school, Venn diagrams. So if you think about two nice circles and we sort of put a lot of emotive sort of reasons and kind of beliefs and ideas from these customers into those circles.
Comes from the colors.
There was a sorry, is someone talking there?
I'm muting.
Oh, that's right. So there was a very distinct kind of crossover between these two customers. And I think that's really key to find because it's really hard to market to everyone. So you have to find those kind of commonalities between your customers. And for us, our commonalities were just clear as day. They were incredibly time poor people. Now, if you're in marketing, there is deadlines galore. You've got so many marketing projects on the go. You've got other systems and other tools you're trying to keep updated. Maybe it's your project management tools. It's super, super time poor. You know, there's always a million things to be done with not enough time in the day. And the other thing that they actually really had that came out really strong was they had a real value on collaboration. So if they didn't, they wouldn't need me thinking online proofing was a thing or they had a problem because they need to get feedback and approvals from other people. So collaboration is really important to them. They need to be working with other teams, not necessarily just the marketing team that they're in or just the creative agency. It is getting some input from legal. It is maybe on some terms and conditions on a promotion. It is getting someone from sales to have a look at their work to see, is it right for the Japanese market, for example? So that kind of value on collaboration was really, really high for our customers. So, and that kind of gave us two really good starting points. One, super, super time poor. And the other was that they really, really valued collaboration. So we sat down. Well, we sat down in our room, Mark is my co-founder and also my marketing manager, and we worked with Hamish kind of really distilling all of this information and going back to the roots of why we created PageProof in the first place. Because our why was not, hey, we're just creating a business to sell it one day. We're creating it just to make lots of money. That wasn't the reason why we were doing it. Why was both Marcus and I worked in the creative industry. We felt that pain. We really recognized there wasn't a nice way of providing feedback. Everything was quite utilitarian, very cold, not very welcoming of feedback. So we actually kind of really went through all of our whys back then. And I'm not really going to go into too much kind of detail on that. But what was really important was, although we were providing and we have this love for innovation and love for creating new things that are really going to solve problems, we actually had to hook in to the emotional side of those to kind of start building a language around it for our customers so that they understood what our innovation was meaning for them. So like, for example, we don't want to just say, hey, this new feature is going to save you time. It was actually more than that. It was more than we're going to be an efficient way for you to gather feedback and approvals. It was about, we're going to make it so easy for you to bring in all of your outside team members and people you want to collaborate on your creative work, that ultimately your brand and your marketing piece is going to be better as a result. So that's what we kind of hooked in together about. So bringing voices in from other teams was actually going to build and strengthen your own brand. It also has a lot of side effects, like it educates people about your brand, like what's on brand, what's off brand, a whole bunch of stuff like that. But we really wanted to gather that feedback, also make sure someone could get into the product and get out of the product super fast. So unlike some software products where you want to keep people in your software because you go, yeah, everyone's in my software product all the time. This is a great metric. We actually wanted to kind of do the opposite. We've got time poor people that their job is not a full-time reviewer or proofer. We want to get them in. Imagine you're the person in the legal team. They're a lawyer, first and foremost. You want to get them in, having a little look, checking something, giving some feedback, and hoof them out of there again, really simply. So we want them to get back to their jobs, which they actually truly love, whether that's a designer designing or a lawyer doing some legal speak. That's what they truly love. They don't want to spend all their time in our product reviewing stuff. So that was really, really key to us. And it was a fundamental where right from the get-go, we remembered we wanted collaboration to have no limits, which is we don't want you sending a piece of work to say, oh, we can't get someone else's inclusion in on this project because they don't have a license to use PageProof. That was fundamentally breaking us on the inside because we were like, no, collaboration. We want as many people in on these projects as possible to get the best outcome for these customers. So this was kind of our big thing about defining our why. And it's really interesting because we boiled it down to actually what we're about is empowering voices to strengthen brands. It's sort of this lofty kind of idea, but what's key to this, and I think it's really important to say, is that your why is not your tagline. So you will see, for example, our tagline is PageProof, making feedback welcome. We're not kind of going into this whole, hey, you're going to strengthen your brand by we've got no limits bringing all these people in. This is kind of the why that we transform our business and make our business decisions about. But the tagline is really, you can't say everything you want to say in a tagline. So don't even try it. Like my recommendation to you, don't try putting your entire business in one tagline. So anyway, it's it really, our why, as Hamish kind of alluded to before, it drives your business. So it drives product decisions, whether we invest our time in innovating into a new feature or not. It's all about the why. Does it actually meet those kind of why principles? It drives our marketing, especially around the strategic side of our content that we do. It drives our sales as well. And yeah, ultimately we want to cultivate a really joyful experience along the way for our reviewers. So once we kind of worked through all of this in a couple of workshops, I think, Hamish, how many workshops do you think we had? Maybe about 5?
There was a few, because the first one we did the segmentation, the customer interviews, and then it was just really trying to work out like that framework of what we do and what we stand for. And I think once we had that in place, maybe it was our 4th one, it just kind of went, this is it. Like we had it down pat. So yeah.
And I don't think it helps as founders, Marcus and myself, we just talk all the time. We're like super passionate about what we do. So we went off on lots of kind of tangents and backstories for Hamish, but it's really good. This is why having a facilitator is really good, because they sort of rein 2 very overly passionate founders in. And so you can actually really focus on getting this framework put in place. So the other thing that what we did was once we put a framework together, and when I talk about a framework, you've got almost this driving force of your why. Think about this being up the top, but you've actually got some fundamentals that are powering and leading up to that why. So, and I'm not going to go into the detail of those, but those fundamentals is really delivering that value to customers. And you've really got to understand those different fundamentals of your product differentiation as well. That's actually pushing into your why. So once we'd done that, we passed all this great Miro boards and Word documents and PowerPoint presentation. We passed all this kind of plethora of information over to a professional copywriter. Again, if you take anything from this, a professional copywriter can change your game. It is their number one job to write amazing copy to actually transform your brand language. And this is what's so key and important to creating a memorable brand, and creating consistency as well. So right across all areas of our business, having that brand speak, or a toolbox of phrases, if you like, that really speaks to your target audience. When you have that, do not just limit that to your marketing. What we did was we went right back to the very beginning of the customer journey. We went, okay, if they're searching for us in Google, how are we going to deliver this brand speak in our Google AdWords? How are we going to put that right across our website? How are we going to put that down to, everybody has some automation in the back end of sending out emails to customers to welcome them on trials and things like that. How do we inject that language right through that interaction with the client? Right through to when someone books a demo, you will find that whether you book a demo with the first salesperson in our queue or the last salesperson in the queue, we talk the same language. So, and that was really important that we all say the same thing. So when you have another demo, you're not getting a completely different feel of the brand. A great example is we always say, when it comes to PageProof, you use the red pen, put your feedback on the work, and push the green button when you're done. And that's basically the training as well. So we still have that brand speak coming across with all of our customer success agents when they're actually delivering their training, the training material itself. And of course, you've got your marketing, but right down to the billing. We have aspects of our brand and our brand speak and language toolbox right on our billing as well. So even on emails that we send as well. So I can't stress the importance of just a consistent message right the way through every team in your business, because that is what can't be copied. Someone can take a fabulous phrase and chuck it on their own website, but if it's only sitting there and it's not within all those other customer touch points, it's pointless, and no one's going to remember that after the fact. So really, really important to get that brand language woven into everything you do. And it's not just a spoken language or a written language, it's right through to imagery, it's right through all aspects. So your designers will just find it so much easier to design things. Your marketing team who's doing digital marketing is going to find it so much easier to whip up Google ads and campaigns and all of that kind of stuff as well. So giving you a little bit of example, because I know everybody loves a few examples. So yeah, you end up flipping from being, if you looked at PageProof like 8 years ago or 9 years ago, you would have seen that it was, hey, we've got this feature. It's awesome. It does this, and it was just this like repetitiveness on features and innovation. And there were fabulous features, don't get me wrong, but we weren't really catching our target audience about why should they be even interested in that feature? What is it going to solve for them, and how are they going to use it? So if we take today how we do those things, for example, we love packaging here at PageProof. It's something we're always interested in finding really, really unique and inspiring examples of fabulous packaging. And on packaging, you often see barcodes, right? And there are some really fantastic examples of creative brand use inside of barcodes. Barcodes don't have to be boring, they can be really interesting. So we started pushing out a few of these interesting kind of examples, and then we weave in, hey, PageProof has this ingeniously simple automatic barcode scanner. You just click a button and it scans all your barcodes, and then in one click you can make a comment if the information is incorrect. We also follow it up with like a blog article explaining why there are so many different barcodes in the world and what specific use cases is each barcode used for. So we kind of weave in that kind of educational side of things as well for designers and for marketers as well, because that's really important to kind of boost their knowledge on things. So that's an example of like just how we would introduce maybe a feature like our barcode scanner. Another example might be we're really hot on educating people around designing for accessibility in mind. Everyone's trying to widen their audience, and when you really look at accessibility, so accessibility is things like really designing marketing collateral that maybe is easier for a wider audience to see if they're visually impaired, for example. There's lots and lots of different examples, or if they're of the older generation, you need to be very conscious of the size of your fonts and the clarity on the artwork, that kind of thing. So we were pushing a whole lot of examples of really inspirational content of how people are showcasing design accessibility in their work. And then we would kind of weave in, hey, PageProof has a color set feature, which automatically outlines the different color plates when you go to print, so you can check what's going to print on each of your color plates. One of which we're going to show you what's going to be on your embossing layer. Super good if you're printing anything to do with Braille. So you've kind of woven in a little bit of why you would have that feature in your platform, and why it's useful to your target audience. So I hope you guys found a couple of those stories interesting. Yeah, but
we're going to have to move into a few questions, but I just want to sort of wrap this up, because that's what I love the most, right? So if we're talking about our framework, right? So our why was empowering voices to strengthen brands. Boom, the big idea. That fueled our product story, which Gemma was talking about. You know, we coined this phrase ingeniously simple. Like, it's like everything to make sure that quality feedback can be given so anyone can get in and out. But our point of view was celebrating the power of diverse thinking. So when we were going to do content strategy, it was showing the results of collaboration, which was really, really, really inspiring. So I think that's a nice kind of way of tying it all together. Jared, do you think, Gemma?
Yeah, absolutely. And we focused a lot on brand collaboration as well, like which are key brands collaborating with other key brands, and how that would kind of come together to create a really memorable piece of marketing material as well. It hit home with our audience, and to just sort of summarize or sum up why you would do this is, we noticed an absolute change in the quality of the leads coming through to our sales team and through our marketing site, because they were the right people who needed to be spoken to, and the right people to make aware of your product, which means sales have an easier job. We're not wasting people's time following up leads, which are just fundamentally not going to go anywhere. So, and then the other thing it translates into is customers really feel you care about them, and they show their customer love in so many unique different ways. They will do case studies for you. They will leave reviews for you if you ask them to. And you know, the other day, G2 put out their latest G2 results. So G2 is like a software platform which helps you find other software to meet your needs of your business. So you could look for accounting software, or in our case, online proofing software. And we snapped up 33 badges in that full report, which is an insane amount considering the closest kind of direct competitor had something like 17 badges. So it really does translate into some tangible, business results that are going to fuel your business when you do focus on your why, and it's really defendable. So that's what you want at the end of the day. So you don't want to be in that feature matching competition, I can tell you. So
that defensibility is really important, right? It's about building a moat, right? And when everyone's, when technology is democratized and people have been able to execute at pace, how do you build a moat? Well, you've built a moat with your brand equity, right? I have a quick question for you. You mentioned earlier about that collaboration is for everyone, and that sometimes maybe a customer going, oh, I can't get approval from that person because they don't have a license.
Yeah.
With the way that you build that brand strategy, did that impact pricing and plans?
Yeah, so we were no limits right from the get-go, because that was a fundamental passion and driver for both markets.
Not a price per seat model.
Oh, yeah. So not a price per seat. So yeah, no limits meant you could have as many people in your team, because we really wanted to we didn't want to penalize people for growing a small marketing team to a big team or a small agency to a big agency. We didn't want to penalize them for their growth. However, obviously they would want to use maybe a slightly different feature set as they grow because there were some benefits about doing so. So that's how we transform them into a different plan. And having no limits really on their users that they would have in a team, that actually did so well for us as a brand, because it is that feeling of inclusivity. It is fueling collaboration. And as people kind of dive in and out of peak project times and using freelancers and things, it really fit well with their needs. And that was really important. It's not about you, it's about your customers' needs.
It is. Look, this has been ridiculously interesting. It's fantastic to actually have you, Gemma, here to be able to talk through how you did this.
Yeah.
And the impact and the story that you can bring around how you've actually brought that to life. I think that's incredibly valuable. You both really highlight the need to speak to your customers. Get them from your customers. Tell you what, I never do it. I will own up and say in the marketing roles, I never did it enough, right? I did as much as I could, but I never did it enough. And so tech marketers, we're actually going to follow up with this webinar. Will come out shortly. So we're going to follow up with another webinar around how to engage your customers and how to get feedback from your customers. So Helen's going to run a webinar. She's just putting it together now, so we'll come out shortly. And we're also running our AI for Marketers series, which will probably become a monthly program, if you like. So, and that's going to be, I'm sure Sophie will probably get you guys involved from Canham and Wellington as well. But on behalf of everyone, of all of us and the Tech Marketers Group, Gemma, thank you for spending some time together. I know you don't do many of these webinars, so we're really grateful for your time. And Hamish, thank you so much for taking the lead on this. It's a fantastic story. It's great to ground it and in a customer story and a real example that can bring these ideas to life for all of us. So I really appreciate that.
Can I add something for NZTE customers that are joining today? NZTE have a fantastic brand program called Know It, Show It, Grow It, which was developed by Stuart Braxton, who is a beachhead NZTE. So that, if you speak to your NZTE representative, they have that program available, which will help you at the starting phase of growing your brand, and then it walks you through just about everything that Gemma's sort of talked about. So that's something to keep in mind.
Cool. And if anyone does have questions for me, I'm happy to take them. You can email me at gemma@pageproof.com.
Awesome. Thank you to all of you who joined us this morning. Thank you for spending some time together. Really, really appreciate it. We will make this webinar available on demand in the next few days. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at the next TMG event. Cheers.
Thanks all.